Easter Sunday 2020 has come and gone. It is not a day we will soon forget. Vince continues to check our church building in which we last gathered for worship on March 8th, 6 weeks ago. He reports our building misses us. It feels empty. The floors have a few creaks in them from lack of use. The walls seem to express a certain loneliness. Yet I cannot but think of how often I have felt the unseen presence of angels and saints triumphant in our sanctuary, who stop by from time to time to add to our singing, to bless us with a feeling of peace, to join us in praising God. Maybe some of the company of heaven are still present from time to time, or perhaps they are in our church around the clock, keeping watch and praising God when we cannot. Perhaps they're on sabbatical and will not return until we ourselves are back. I have often referred to Holy Communion as that moment in time and outside of time when heaven and earth come as close to one another as possible. It is in our communion liturgy that we speak of joining the unending chorus of heaven, praising the holy name of the Lord, the God of power and might, who has filled heaven and earth with his glory. To the consternation of pastors everywhere, this first Sunday after Easter is often a Sunday when attendance plummets from the week before. We ask ourselves, did anyone understand what happened last Sunday? Did it matter at all that Jesus is risen? He is risen indeed. Should not church attendance be greater each week after Easter as the meaning of the resurrection takes hold in our hearts, renews our highest hopes, and brings peace and purpose to our lives? Our video message last week featured a wonderful rendition of Teresa's hymn, Celebrate Sunrise. The line from that hymn that means the most to me is life-changing. It is personal for me because it was after Teresa heard of my final visit with my mother that she found the inspiration to compose this hymn. I was sitting at my mother's bedside in the hospice room at a Lutheran facility in Loveland, Colorado. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of tears. Finally, I said to my mother, "You know, the next time we see one another, we won't have to say goodbye again." And she was quiet for a short while, and I think what I said brought her comfort. And then she said very softly, "I miss you already." I miss her also every day. But I give thanks that I can celebrate sunrise in the midst of any loss, any grief, any longing for what used to be and what lies ahead in the fullness of God's time. So can you. I guess for many of us, learning what the resurrection means can take a lifetime. But for me, to know the goodbyes will end. They will never have to be said again to those we love. That's enough to get me to church on time every week for the rest of my life. In fact, going to church is the least I can do. Giving my life to whatever purpose God has in mind for me is what is required. As another hymn writer said, "Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all." Jesus came to save us from what is referred to as our fallen humanity. And part of our fallen humanity seems to want to experience the Easter joy apart from the Easter imperatives. Here, I think the gospel lesson chosen for this Sunday is very helpful. It comes from the 20th chapter of the Gospel of John, just about at the end of the Gospel. In verses 30 through 31, we read, "And many other signs truly did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you might have life in his name." So Easter is not about an end in itself. It provides us with new beginnings. What remains for us and what lies ahead is the adventure of faith, the struggle and stress, joy and fulfillment that become a new reality for each of us as we find what it means to have life in the name of Jesus Christ. Faith is this adventure we share with our local church family and the worldwide community of saints. And worship is the lifeblood of that journey. Not virtual worship, but people in pews, praising the Lord, sharing the means of grace, praying together, singing together, laughing together, crying together, departing together to serve the Lord and to serve their neighbor. I pray that when the present time of social distancing and painful separation has passed, we will embrace this opportunity to have life in the name of Christ with an enthusiasm and a commitment greater than we have ever known before. See you in church. Amen.